the ability to use any of your other moves in a game of Pokemon. So let's find out what that means in this series, as we have in the bottom right. Our Red Terran player, he is Neeb.
Looking good. Clean haircut, too. And in the top left-hand side of the map, it is, for Psystorm Gaming, Bioice.
Yeah, so definitely going to be a difficult match for Bioice. So, Cats, I'll ask you, if you had to try to beat Neeb, like, let's just assume that, you know, for something low stakes, like your life is on the line or something, and you knew you probably weren't going to out macro him. What's like the filthiest cheese you can think of on this map if you were going to try and do something insane?
Last time I beat Neeb, I put a hatchery in his base, Nate. You know it, baby.
That does not surprise me. That does not surprise me. Unfortunately, does Bioice, is it too late for him to send a drone to put a hatch in his base?
It's a little bit late. And now there's shield battery overcharge as well, so I doubt that won't work anymore.
It's
been a while.
Well, there you go. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So, we'll see. We'll see. Neeb, of course, I feel like in this situation, the only correct move is to just try and play like the most milquetoast strategy of all time and just be on top of your scouting and just win with good mechanics, and maybe go for one of those normal harass based timings. Like, you don't want to make the game passive, because then the other guy kind of has time to try and find some way to get into their flow. But I feel like if I had to make like a wish list of builds that I would want him to use, I'd like him to bust out like his little 2-base, little adept resonating glaive meme build. You know, that used to be like such a Neeb thing to do, and he would kind of play with his opponent. Maybe I'm gonna commit. Sometimes he'd do it with off 3 gateways. Sometimes he'd go all the way up to 7, and you really didn't have an easy way to tell. Until, of course, you know, Cyril reminded everybody that Overlord speed research exists, and that, of course, did change the game. But a lot of people still don't get that. So I think anything's on the table.
Anything is on the table. It's very cool to watch Neeb like approach a new season, because he is the type of player that is methodical enough that he will have like certain build orders that he likes to do over and over, but he does usually have a mix-up in his plans, and he usually has a twist to the builds as compared to whatever inspiration he took to begin with, right? Like, he's a player that is very receptive. I don't know if you remember Succeed, Dennis. But Neeb actually used one of Dennis's builds, which was a really cheesy build, and I proposed that he should try it, and he tried it, and he lost like 3 or 4 times in a row, and he kept trying it. So that's just the kind of player that Neeb is. If he thinks that an idea is good, that it could work, then he'll try it out, right? So for the time being, however, he's playing more or less as standard as you can.
Yeah, I hope he's doing okay. I hope Dennis is doing all right. He was pretty cool guy.
Yeah, he's
pretty cool guy. Pretty funny dude. And Link Speed is going to finish up for Bioice as the Adept shades in. Going to be getting a little bit of information. Nothing really to be seen yet, but the Stargate for Neeb is going to give him that information. And I'm very excited to see what kind of choices get made throughout this series. This is just one of those matchups in the group where you're like, okay, we've got the absolute strongest player against probably the more like newcomer level. So as far as Neeb's concerned, he's ready to just take his 3rd base and chill. First couple of Adepts are going to move out and try to get something done over here.
Yeah, this is cool. It's 5 Adepts, right? Usually you have like 2 Adepts to take your 3rd. Instead, he delays his 3rd in favor of getting this 5 Adepts out and forcing out potential units, even a Spine going down for Bioice. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you look at the setup and it looks pretty standard, like a gateway a little bit earlier than he needed it, especially on a map when you can wall off with just 2 buildings, but he puts it to use. Like, there's a method to the madness when it comes to Neeb, and that is beautiful to see. I mean, these Adepts have given him enough map control that he is confident going out on the map with this Oracle, an Oracle that usually or often has to stay back to defend his 3rd against Link. So he's applying pressure instead of absorbing at this stage of the game, which is very refreshing to see.
Yeah. This Adept pressure is something that Neeb has kind of always was always like one of his stronger little plays, because you never could be 100% sure how committed he was with it. And we're seeing that. Drones get picked off relatively early. It's just that Queens really to hold this. Lings on their own are not particularly great. And actually shading over, using the Adepts with the Oracle to basically be like, look, okay, with both of those, you can microwave a whole lot of Zerglings. The Roaches now, though, they are coming out. And I don't really have a particular breadth of experience with the way that Bioice plays his ZVP, but he was one of those dudes that would hit you with like the Roach Ravager in ZVT. Like he loved that. He loved going like Hydra Viper, especially if you were, you know, if you're one of those crazy people that like built factory units. Not that I would know anything about that, of course.
You are a little bit nasty with those BCs, so I can understand why Bioice would look to punish Nate, but yeah, I mean, in this matchup, I think he has oftentimes like favored things like Muta, like mobile armies and the likes in CVC also, and he likes like +1 upgrades on Lings and stuff like that. Like sometimes I play some crazy games against Bioice where we're both just upgrading Lings and throwing them against each other. So he is a unique player in that regard, but he is playing this game a little bit from behind, 57 workers to 57 there for a brief second, and now that's going to be a little bit more in the favor of Neeb, as he's going to take 5 here at the third, the one base that didn't have a Spore. Also good focus fire into a couple of Lings before the Adepts ran out of energy. So beautiful job from him, and look at that wall of Brilliant as well.
I love this. This is like the, I am willing to saturate this base and then just totally, completely wall it off just so that you can't do anything weird with Banelings. And if you do, it's going to be a very expensive Baneling bust. One of those buildings is a robotics facility. Our observer is on top of it. Doing a great job, by the way. Doing an absolutely fantastic job. Lots of games to cover and helping us do our job is, of course, always much appreciated. Infestation Pit for Bioice. Nice. And this does not surprise me. I feel like he, you know, if I had to guess, I would have assumed down the line some Roach Ravager shenanigans. But Neeb continues to bring that pressure, cleaning up the creep tumors. And I'm just wondering, for Bioice, what his idea of a way to create a win condition is for this situation. Because, you know, he's as aware of, you know, the matchup, obviously, as we are. So he must be thinking to himself, if I can get to this point, then things can become a little bit manageable for me. But Neeb is bringing a huge follow-up of Stalkers. Does not have the Prism out yet, but he does have +1 in Blink. So I don't know. Maybe his objective is just survive for now.
Yeah, this is so cool from Neeb. It's such a layered approach, and again, very unique in his own right. And I don't doubt that we're gonna see this replicated throughout the season from Neeb. It seems like a style that he has worked on, and there's legs to it, right? Like it makes a lot of sense. Like the Adepts, he saved them. He used them to force out units earlier. So instead of developing a very quick economy like we've seen with the hero style that kind of took off over the last few months, he is instead applying pressure and keeping his own economy a little bit lower while making sure that his opponent is not over droning or getting ahead in that regard, but always keeping the Adepts kind of safe, which is perfect because now you have Adepts to protect the Stalkers against Zerglings, which is kind of their main predator at this stage in the game.
And then he force fields most of the Roaches off the front, and the rest are going to turn into Ravagers behind the line. So a lot of Roach Ravager from Bioice. Those Biles, if they connect, can do great work, but I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing those blinks from Neeb, and he's going to say, you burned your cooldowns, I'm diving in. Those Ravagers are so squishy.
Exactly. Yeah, just no beef at the front there for Bioice, so Neeb is going to blink on top of it. Towards the end, there are a few Roach reinforcements are going to help out. The Zealots get their charge, but there's not many Zealots to speak of, and Neeb is happy to trade here. I mean, he has 79 workers to the 81. Now even on workers are the 2 as a huge Zealot run by goes into the natural and the third. Neeb could continue on to the main as the Ravagers are once again exposed. Like you said, they're very flimsy units without any chunk for the Roaches at the front, and things are looking all Neeb here.
Oh, well, good grab on the Prism, but tapping out after the rest of the army and workers were killed, and Neeb gonna take game number 1. And you know, for Neeb, I think this is like, you just got to follow through on the swing. Don't hold up. The biggest reason in my mind where upsets happen in these situations is when there's underestimating the opponent. But Neeb has never really struck me as a cocky enough player to underestimate. And I do think that that's also one of the reasons why he's been so consistently successful and why he hasn't really given up that NA throne just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he is a standard and macro-oriented player for the most part, but I like that he's diversifying it. This is more of a mid-range approach than I'm used to from him. Oftentimes, he's just happy to absorb and take it to the late game, where he is oftentimes considered the best Protoss in the world when it comes to the very, very late game, right? Maybe at the moment, you know, a little bit less active than he has been near his prime, or even after that, when he's still considered one of the best late game players in the world, no matter what. But I love that he is taking this more mid-range approach, this kind of like heavier mid-game focused style, because it's refreshing. It's different from what everyone else is doing. And in being that, it's difficult to adapt, right? Because every player is kind of like gearing up and understanding what the meta is, what most players are doing, like what Hero is doing. And then you're getting those like +1 Ling responses, like Ling into Hydra, like very, very heavy Ling focused styles. But when you have that many adepts, when you still open double Oracle, right, it's so much more difficult to come up with a right answer, basically. And I think Bioice had good ideas, but never caught up in terms of economy. So yeah, fantastic job from Neeb. Clean.
Clean, I like that word. A lot of ways to describe this man's play, but that is one of the better ways to do it. In the bottom left, got the red Protoss player. He is Neeb.
And in the top right-hand side, it is Bioice. Once again, looking for a gateway expand here. By the looks of it, it's going to be a gateway scout into a Nexus, most likely on the side of Neeb. And Bioice going for the classic 16 hatch on the other side. So, yeah, nothing out of the ordinary here, other than Bioice taking a small risk by not sending the drone a little bit earlier to kind of poke down his ramp and make sure that the hatchery isn't getting blocked. But that is a little bit out of fashion at this point. And at some point, it was like a 90% plus of the Protoss is doing it every game, and at this point it's something that, you know, like sort of lower than 30%, I want to say.
Yeah. Still kind of like the idea of Bioice trying to carve out some sort of timing, try to find a way to make it so that even if Neeb, like even if we just assume that Neeb will hold whatever Bioice throws at him, surely there has to be something that he can do to at least force Neeb to react, and then kind of set whatever Neeb's plan would be off a little bit. And I think like maybe that's one of those ways that you try to disrupt the sequence of the game, see if there's a way to open it up a little bit, cause a mistake to be made. But it just feels, it feels like you have to do a lot of suspension of disbelief to assume that he'll just crumble to that.
Yeah. I mean, it is so very difficult, right? To figure out a style that you potentially haven't faced, or at least definitely don't regularly face, against a player that you know is better and far more accomplished than you are, and then have that response ready. So if I am Neeb, I just kind of do the same thing, pose the same problem, and I'd be interested how Bioice would look to solve it. Like, if it were me, maybe I'd be thinking something like Bane Links with link speed, like maybe some upgrades or something of the likes, to punish those adepts, like on kind of like after the fact, right? Like you deflect them, and then maybe you can break through and do something. But Neeb also opened with a Stalker, so the Stalker at the front is going to make it a lot more difficult to bust through with Banelings. So I'm not sure what you do if you're Bioice. Maybe just plain Ling upgrades into Hydra is not so bad still. Or
yeah, because you can at least do early pressure to some degree with that. You can macro and have, I think about the way Scarlet likes to play a little bit, where you have those packs of Lings, that early +1. You can lean into those and just be annoying, where when Neeb tries to move out, you try to backstab that third, maybe see if there's a little bit of a run by. Because to me, the other side of these types of situations is also that it not just, okay, Neeb, don't underestimate the opponent, but for Bioice, it's always going to be hard to win if you can't come into the game and believe that there are things you can do that your opponent will have to react to, or that there are things you can do that will work. So you can't just assume like, oh, well, I can't do this type of attack because obviously Neeb would hold it. Because by that logic, not doing the attack is equally bad because Neeb would beat you anyway, right?
Right.
So I try to think about that. Like, give yourself the opportunities to find those holes in the play. You know, it's not like Neeb is invulnerable to run bys. It's not like he never loses games. There are still things that you can take away from there, but obviously that kind of plays into the mental aspect of it. Oracle comes in, gets 4-5 drone. Oh, okay, just 4.
Forgave that one.
I like this though. Sends a couple of links. It's not really enough. It doesn't really have the upgrade, but we'll get the adept. At the very least, he's going to drag the Oracle back. Might be able to get it to burn some energy. These are the nice little plays that we like to see. Buys himself a little bit of breathing room and try to crank out as many drones as you can behind that. The real question then becomes, as a few stalkers get warped in, or one stalker and one adept, are we going to see that big blink play followed up or preceded by the adepts? Because we had it, the adepts came first, then the blink. Is that going to be something like what we see in this one? 2 oracles now in the main. Still no spore crawler on the part of Bioice, so losing another 9 drones.
I mean, if he leaves the game and now I won't be upset. I won't. Yeah, like it's so difficult. Losing 4 workers first, like to the first oracle, right at that timing is already pretty game ending. You're going up against Neeb on top of that. It's just gotta feel awful for Bioice. And yeah, these oracles finding way too much. On the other side, sure, the Lynx killed an adept, but really, who cares? And Neeb is just going to be flooding with adepts by the looks of it. The gateways in the back of his natural base kind of give us a hint that he didn't want that to be spotted. So being a little bit feisty, a little bit spicier than we're used to, as far as just trying to capitalize early and end the game. So I love to see it from Neeb. He's going to see a lot of Lynx here. That might stop him from attacking before he gets the upgrades for the adept, so maybe 1 or 2 more warpins before doing anything else. And Bioice is doing pretty much what we thought or what we hoped he would do. He's getting that +1 melee, and he's going for the banelings, which on paper are, you know, a good response against the adepts should they connect. But he is playing from very far behind already.
Yeah, and this is a little bit, like I was saying, that very, very powerful Neeb style. So +1 melee is almost done for the Lings, but almost is not going to help as the fight begins before that. Does get the surround on the adepts. They, of course, have the resonating glaives like we were discussing. Several of them are going to die, but the other 2 squeeze into the main base. Going to grab a couple of drones at the same time. Stasis Ward popping a couple of the workers on the Vespine Geyser. And tucked in here. But, you know, Bioice doesn't lose too much on that. I think the only issue is Neeb's macro back home has been fantastic. He's at 66 probes to 49 drones. So for Bioice, he needs to make something happen. I think the sentries with the force fields could keep banelings away, but the Lings poking, looking for something. I think this attempt here is as important as anything else Bioice can do, though.
Yeah, Bioice almost breaking in as well. One sentry with enough energy was luckily closer to the ramp than the other sentries and manages to force field that. Otherwise, that adept would have fallen and some Lynx would have been able to slip in. This wall off is completed time and time again, which means that the banelings are not going to find any entry into that base. But yeah, I mean, a little bit of a blunder, I think, on the side of Neeb to move out with those adepts. I was talking about how he probably wants to wait for 1 or 2 more warpins, and that's because he saw as many Lynx as he did, right? So if you know your opponent is already committing to that many Lynx, there's no really use in just using the units that you already have. You already forced the response that you were looking for without actually doing anything, and the lack of Spore here has just killed Bioice like 4 times in this game, it feels like.
Yeah, he reproduced a lot of drones. Does get a couple more picked off, as we were saying there, but gets up to 69, so he's got a good economy. He can power out a lot of Zerglings. Nice. He's got his +2 melee coming in as well. But here's the thing. Neeb getting the Warp Prism, getting the 4th base set up. Blink and +1 are about to finish. What happened in game 1? As soon as Blink was done, he pushed across the map. We saw the Prism go for the backstab.
Check tally of kills on these people. 15 and 8 between those oracles, almost exclusively drones.
Not bad. 23 between the 2 of them. Oh, Jordan. Boy.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, as I was saying, like a little bit of a blunder earlier for Neeb, but Bioice kind of repaid in turn from a difficult position. Like, I think attacking was the right choice from Bioice, just making more units and trying to press the issue, but Neeb with a wonderful hold, and now he's in a commanding position once again. Now ready and justified, I think, on the move out. So Bioice is going to have to pray for the connections of a lifetime here to make something happen.
Yeah, those Lings do get somewhat of a surround on the right side, but not quite enough. The army is split up. He will be able to grab the Immortal, but there's so many gateway units still here, and I think that Prism is staying with the army to reinforce now. So that's going to do it. Neeb takes the 2-0.